Via Lee feels like an imposter. Let's find out why and what insights could help you on your own journey.
We are going to be talking about feeling like an outcast, specifically for those who just constantly feel like they don't belong, almost like you're born an outcast. This is something that I want to talk about because I've dealt with it my whole life. Being born Asian American, as a kid being shy, introverted, growing up ugly, I didn't have any friends and people wouldn't really approach me. And I remember just there were a lot of times in middle school, I would just sit alone at a lunch table. I would bring a book and basically pretend that I'm reading to not feel like a loser. And I would have a few friends, but sometimes like if they're not there, I would just read. I didn't have like the popular girls' clothes. I remember Uggs were a huge thing. North Face jackets were huge.
I feel like a lot of Asian Americans experience this. At least this girl has a book. Many times it's similar to the movies. If an Asian kid doesn't have friends, he just sadly eats over his food at his own table by himself. Unfortunately, I think that's a pretty common experience. And so this girl was actually smart to bring a book. She was ahead of the curve.
Huge thing. I didn't have those. So there was appearance-wise when I was younger, and then when I got older, it was the anxiety aspect of it. Like, especially in social settings, I don't know how people just go very smoothly. There's people who have a lot of connections at these social events, and they would just go up to people and just be, hey, what's up? And I remember there was this once back in like freshman year of college, basically this upperclassman, I was walking back from class, and she was like, oh, you should come to this party. And I was a freshman. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I went there. I literally stood there. Everyone was like taking shots and I was scared. I didn't want to take a shot. And I was there and I just felt so outcasted. Everyone was talking. I stood there. People looked at me and nobody wanted to approach me. It wasn't social. And also at that period of time, I didn't really dress up and I didn't seem inviting, I guess. I was really stiff there.
So there's two things that she did here. One was actually really good, and the other lacks a little bit of contextual know-how. The first thing she did that was really good, and I want to praise, is that she said yes, right? She said yes to the potentially uncomfortable experience in order to give herself a chance to socialize and be included. And that's actually a lot further than many people get, because a lot of people don't even get opportunities to be invited to parties. The other thing is that if you are generally a person who is socially uncomfortable, parties are going to be really tough environments for you to socialize, especially if you do not engage in the activities that usually occur there, aka drinking. I think in this situation, a better alternative would have been looking for opportunities to join in a sober setting that is specifically meant to screen people on the ground level. For example, when I went to college, there were student organizations. These are at every school, basically. And there's these things called general meetings. In general meetings, there's this basic understanding and almost expectation that there's going to be new people there and that it is a great place to meet other people, especially those who are coming for the first time. Usually they'll go out to dinner or do some activity afterwards. And it sounds like an environment like that would be a much better fit for Via here, rather than at a party where she's not going to drink and where she might only know one person. That can be very difficult. It's going to seem like everyone knows each other, but a lot of times people are actually meeting each other for the first time. They just look social. They appear very social. And yeah, they might know some people from class or similar social circles, but it doesn't mean that everybody knows each other. It's very easy to see that illusion and buy into it though.
I have been in friend groups, but the thing was that they do get toxic towards the end, I would say. I remember like when I was in friend groups, I felt really, really trapped. Like, I feel like I can't go meet other people. I don't have a current friend group right now. Yeah, it feels lonely and it just feels like you don't belong. You don't belong anywhere. Like, you know, people that can just like text their friends and be, hey, can we like just hang out? I don't have that friend group anymore. I'm like friends with individual people because for me, I feel that that causes less drama. When there's arguments within friend groups, it can end up really badly. And that's happened to me before and I don't want that to happen again. And I guess like this is why people are in relationships, because it makes them feel like they belong. They belong to another person. Okay, maybe that's a bad way to, but you guys know what I mean. They have this connection with this other person. They're always going to be there for them, right? For me, it's just I don't have that. This has always been my entire life. I'm always on my own little island. Everyone is, in groups and groups and groups and groups and groups and groups and groups. And I'm just in my own little island right here. And it gets lonely because I feel like as a human, everyone craves connection.
So this is an interesting thing too, because I have other friends that feel the same way. They are on their own island and they have groups, maybe not groups, but individual friends in these different areas. But they don't exactly have a squad. And usually when you have a squad, you tend to have more of a sense of belonging. Open secret though, a lot of times those people you see that have a squad, not everyone gets along in there. In fact, it's very rare that everyone does. And oftentimes people can end up in social circles where they only like one person, but they feel like they can't make friends elsewhere, so they keep hanging out in that one group because it's better for them, even if it is a toxic environment, than having nothing. And I'm not even demonizing people that do this. I've definitely done this in the past as well. But I would say a better alternative is if you are in situations like this, depending on how toxic the group is, because it can vary widely. It can vary from one person you just kind of don't vibe with, or maybe they owe you $10 for a sandwich you bought for them one time and they haven't paid you back. It can range from that all the way to talking behind your back, gossiping, spreading rumors. Maybe they beat you up one time. There's a very large range of toxic behaviors. But if it's on the lower end, I actually think it's worth it to stay in that one friend group if the benefits you get from it outweigh the cons. So maybe staying in that one group, even if there's only that one person you really gel with, if the benefits of that outweigh all of the other detractors that come with that decision, it's actually better to stay in that group and to expand from there. I do not think that you should just stay there. I think you should also be expanding in the meantime, because life is too short to only hang out with people that are not necessarily additive to your life.
So then usually when you don't belong, you would try to fit in. And whether that's like changing your appearance or, changing your personality or, whatever it is. I've done that. I've changed my appearance, but also I will say that I changed my appearance due to myself, like self-care. But a part of it was also I want to fit in. I want people to like me. I want to make friends. And then I also changed my personality, which I would link the video right here where I talked about growing up ugly. I was very introverted and I'm also extroverted in some aspects, but I, amplified it. I tried to become more extroverted than I am. And it was hard to keep up. The need of constantly wanting to fit in, but at the same
One other thing I want to touch on here is that changing yourself to fit in is not necessarily bad. It is bad when you compromise your morals or character in order to fit in. It is not bad when you think of it as block percentages. For example, changing your fashion, 10% more chance to fit in. That's one block. Wearing deodorant, another 10% chance to fit in. Combing your hair, washing your face, taking a shower. These are all tiny blocks that add up not just to fit in, but they help you feel good about yourself. The main value you present is yourself, your personality, your worldview.
like changing your appearance or, changing your personality or, whatever it is. I've done that. I've changed my appearance, but also I will say that I changed my appearance due to myself, like self-care. But a part of it was also I want to fit in. I want people to like me. I want to make friends. And then I also changed my personality, which I would link the video right here where I talked about growing up ugly. I was very introverted and I'm also extroverted in some aspects, but I, amplified it. I tried to become more extroverted than I am. And it was hard to keep up. The need of constantly wanting to fit in, but at the same time, you just don't fit in was exhausting. Or maybe it could also just be I haven't found the right people, which goes to my next point, which is the fact that I just had to stop trying to fit in. I really stopped trying to fit in. And one of the prime examples of me not trying to fit in is posting on social media. Back then, when I was just so scared to post on social media because I thought of what would people think of me, what really got me through it was the fact that I didn't fit in the first place. So who cares if I post on social media? I'm not gonna lose a bunch of friends because I didn't have a lot of friends to begin with. The true friends will stay by me. And so at the end, just be unapologetically yourself. That's what I learned, because fitting in is so exhausting. Even now, I feel like I avoid social functions.
Yeah, I definitely think it is a good idea when you're first learning the ropes to try to fit in, but not at the cost of your internal values. However, in the process of life, as you get older, you will find what your own limits are and calibrate accordingly. For example, My freshman year of college, I joined 10 different student organizations and quickly found out that my limit was much closer to half of that, and even that was pushing it. So just know that it's going to be a dynamic process, and as long as you aren't compromising your core values, it's fine to be in a constant state of change as you're finding your social It's interesting that she feels like she's not Asian enough even though she speaks fluent Mandarin, because I know people that would kill to be even at a first grade level on Mandarin, which goes to show that feelings of self-doubt and inadequacy vary wildly from person to person.
I can speak Mandarin fluently, but I can't text it. And also, when I'm with my Asian American peers, I just tend to feel I also don't fit in. Because, like, a lot of them have grown up watching certain TV.
This right here, I do want to say, I think this is pretty normal for most people that didn't grow up with a general fluency and social acceptance, which is most people because everybody's different and it takes a while to kind of find yourself as a social being, specifically the anxious and introverted part.
Because, like, a lot of them have grown up watching certain TV shows. And for me, I didn't grow up watching those certain TV shows. And so even as a kid, that just never worked out for me. I remember as a kid, people would talk about certain shows like iCarly or those Disney shows. I didn't have access to those as a kid. Like, I watched a lot of like these Taiwanese historical dramas. A lot of my Asian American friends, they would pack certain lunches, like Spam sandwich or like peanut butter sandwich. My mom packed these.
Side note, this is a very common Asian American experience, bringing a lunch that is just wildly different than your peers. They'll bring a PB&J, and you show up with like lo mian or onigiri or banh mi, and it definitely adds to that feeling of being on the outside. Specifically because kids can be pretty brutal with any type of difference, especially the younger they are.
Pork and leek dumplings, I remember I would get made fun of in middle school because I would open it and it would have a certain scent. I remember there was this one girl, she was one of the popular girls. I remember she was sitting at the end of the table and she was like, "Did she bring those dumplings again?" I remember I felt so insecure. I literally went back to my mom. I was like, "Mom, don't pack me those dumplings." And I feel so bad. She must.
And this, oh man, I think there's literally been movies made about this experience, about just being an Asian kid, bringing a non-American typical lunch to school, getting made fun of it, and then being embarrassed about it and asking your parents not to do that. And then when you grow up, you feel so guilty for doing that because you realize how much love and care your parents put into making those lunches for you. And that those kids basically had no right to criticize, and they were just being mean. Thankfully, life is not over when we are 9 years old and we grow up and realize that when people make fun of us, it's not a reflection on us or our family, it's a reflection on them. But at 9 years old, you don't realize that, and sometimes it takes 20, 30 years, sometimes more, to figure that out.
Been so confused, but me as a middle school kid, I just wanted to fit in, and having like those kids say that, it just made me feel really awful because I felt like I don't belong. I feel like I shouldn't stand out because I already don't belong, and so if I even stand out, it just emphasizes the fact that I don't belong. So I would lower myself, fit into that image that was already presented for me. I was very focused on my academics. I wouldn't wear makeup. I wouldn't wear certain clothes because I didn't have a good support group. I didn't have like a supportive friend group or a certain community that would be like, yeah, but when I got to college, I changed my personality. I made a friend group. I was more like embracing myself because I wanted to fit into a group so bad. Those friends that I had.
So what she describes as embracing herself, that is that calibration I'm talking about. You start learning to be comfortable in your own skin. You find out what you like, don't like, what you'll stand up for, what you won't, what you will and will not compromise when building new relationships. That's a key one we'll touch on later in this channel.
We were not that compatible to begin with. We didn't share a lot of the same values towards like sophomore, junior year. I realized that maybe I just don't need to fit in. I really wish that I could sit here and be like, it's okay to not belong anywhere. Even now, I'm still trying to deal with it because it gets lonely. And this year.
So I will say that there is a form of giving up when you have experienced tons of, discomfort and rejection when trying to make friends, and you start telling yourselves You start telling yourself certain things to kind of cope with that. And I do not say that in a derogatory way. I say that because that's just a survival mechanism. And part of growing up is learning that there are painful things in life that you are going to have to try and fail at again, until you finally start making breakthroughs. People talk about the valley of disappointment when trying something new, what your expectations are, and then what the reality is. But the good news is that when you stick with something and progress intelligently, you can gain proficiency in almost anything, including social skills and building relationships from square one.
I really tried to meet more people. I'm also more introverted in a sense, so it's also kind of hard for me. I'm trying. And I feel it also goes to the fact that I'm a pretty awkward person too. I do fine in certain social settings, but sometimes it's just I
also do hate the idea of trying as being cringe. Because that's the only way you get anywhere in life, in anything, is trying. It's important to try. You should be trying hard at things. I never liked that insult, try hard. I feel like poser is a much more apt description for what most people think of as a tryhard. But yes, things are difficult. You're going to fail a lot at everything. And you have to try hard again and again and again to make any progress.
also get pretty anxious for social settings. Even when you do belong into like a certain group, you feel like an imposter. You feel like a fraud. It's almost like you feel like you need to create the sense of person in order to fit in with other people. When you grow up as a kid, not fitting in with your peers, it gets harder when you become an adult. And then you try to fit in, and then you find that to be exhausting. And then you came to the conclusion that maybe you just don't need to fit in. But then when you don't need to fit in, it makes you feel very alone. Before I was always...
Yeah, that's that catch-22 situation. And I think a lot of adults, especially now, have experienced this after school when socializing is much more difficult. You have to put in much more effort for any of your relationships. And I think a good litmus test for this is if you feel at peace when you are alone or if you feel lonely. There's solitude and there's loneliness, very different. And I think if you feel lonely, then you have to determine for yourself whether it is worth it to put in those time and resource requirements for building new connections. Because it's not easy after school. Absolutely not. I hope I will be able to make that easier for you guys on this channel. But it absolutely requires investment and energy. For every benefit of a goal you have, like making new friends, there's also a cost for it, or a con, which would be time, energy, hence what she is saying about exhaustion. And disappointment. There's going to be a lot of times you are going to meet people and things just aren't going to work out for one reason or another. And that's okay. That is part of the process. Whenever you want the benefits of a goal, think about whether you're willing to invest in it despite the drawbacks.
I don't need to fit in. Who needs to fit in? It's completely fine.
I don't need to fit in.
I want to do my own thing, but at the same time, I really want to be open to other people, or even like a place. I don't know where exactly I belong to. The lesson here that I've learned is the fact that if I did belong, I don't think I would have done social media. Basically, back then, I used to spam on my private Snapchat story, and then I felt like annoying, even though I didn't force anyone to click on it.
I think that's also a big indicator of why there's a lot of really successful, in terms of financial consideration, people that are really strange and weird, is because they were able to just invest all their time and energy into like grinding one specific thing, whether that's being a musician, whether that's being a streamer, whether that's being an AI tech bro. When you're able to invest all of your resources into one thing and then you finally break through and become, rich or famous or what have you, there's a reason a lot of these people tend to be very odd. It's because they haven't really gone through the journey with other people. Now, that's not everyone, but it's just a common trend I do see happening with people that has been noticed by others. For example, one of my friends said, every celebrity or famous musician is like actually really weird to interact with based on their own experiences with people that have ended up in those positions.
Would just click on it, but I felt bad. So I just started spamming on my TikTok. So here I am making YouTube now, and I post on Instagram too. So the lesson is that generally, if I fit in, I don't think I would have posted on social media. I wasn't in a friend group. Like, nobody was going to make fun of me. I was like, there's nothing to lose. I'll just post whatever. I think that was kind of like a bit of the start where I kind of just realized the fact that I don't need to belong. I'm just going to do whatever. I'm not losing anything anyway. Like, who cares? I do want to meet people that I share a genuine connection with. I want to keep building my own little community of people. This is something I struggled with my entire life. I feel like I've never belonged anywhere. And it's scary, but the thing that I can tell you is that stop trying. Stop trying to belong, because it gets exhausting. When you don't belong, you can't get yourself to belong somewhere.
I agree with what she's saying here. You don't want to sacrifice or try to force connection with people you don't truly feel connected to. That doesn't mean you should stop making efforts to search for the right people and invest in those relationships that do seem promising appropriately to however long you have known the person for. Sometimes it happens just super quickly. Other times it takes years. But yes, don't force it.
So when you stop trying to belong, you'll eventually find a place of where you belong. Just be yourself.
And that was the biggest thing I was worried about, is when she says, don't try to belong. A lot of people mistake that for not trying in general. And as we established earlier, you need to try. You need to put forth efforts to build bridges with other people. So I would just want to make that distinction for anybody that hears don't try to belong with don't make any efforts to meet your social needs and just hope everybody comes to you, because that's not really how life works.
Be yourself, do your thing, because it's so easy to just fake away into being with people that you don't actually want to be with. When you're just yourself, you're going to attract people who you feel like, oh my God, like, I actually genuinely like hanging out with this person. It makes me feel really great about myself.
Those efforts.
That's my note to you guys. So yeah, I hope this video spoke to some of you guys and also helped some of you guys. This is my journal entry number 4 to anyone who feel like they don't belong. I will see you guys all next week. Yeah, bye.
Banger. That was excellent. So that was To Anyone Feeling Lonely and Feels Like They Don't Belong by Via Lee. Love it. Let's go to the comments here. This person says, I get depressed when I see everyone having the best time with their friends and I'm just staying here doing nothing. Every day I wake up and I don't even have a message. It's just horrible. Oh, the oh so sought after morning message. Generally, you have to build up a certain amount of social capital and depth of connection with the right people to get those morning messages. The fastest way to do this is to make friends with an extrovert planner. Somebody who is in charge of planning things. That's literally what they enjoy. And you better believe me, they are out there. But it's very easy if you do this to get that first morning message and get invited to stuff literally when you open your phone and you have that. I'll go into more details in another video on exactly how to do that. But if you build deep connection with somebody who's introverted and hates planning, you could be like ride or die best friends for life, and you still might not wake up to those messages because that's just not their personality. That's not who they necessarily are. It is also easier to get those morning messages when you have a community or multiple squads of friends. But to do that, you have to invest in your relationships. You have to make efforts to meet people and build that up over time. This is absolutely not something that happens overnight. It's weird. It's weird how so many of us exist but can never find each other, you know? Like there's so many lonely people that have common interests, yet it always feels like there's literally everyone else has that super social, normal lifestyle. I don't know, maybe it's me, hurts to see others online talking about feeling left out because all I want to do is sit with them and let them know they can be themselves and still be appreciated by the right people. Social status means nothing. There's a lot to unpack there. I think this is one of the best and worst parts about the internet is that like-minded people will find content and provide input to algorithms that collects similar-minded people, which is great for finding other people that may be going through similar difficulties. But that can be not so great if it becomes an echo chamber where people reinforce harmful opinions and viewpoints. For example, lookism. Lookism. I love to take digs at them because the whole community is about how you are not enough and you have to change yourself in order to be accepted by other people or to be deemed attractive. I hate that. The second part of this comment, the perception that everyone else has a super social, normal lifestyle. And to this, I will say the Instagram before Instagram was real life. I can't tell you how many people I met that seemed like they had it all. Everybody loved them. Everyone wanted to be with them or talk with them. And then you actually get to know these people, and they are incredibly lonely, or they feel like they don't have anyone they can trust. And what leads us to that perception is we just see the surface level of interaction between people. So they might have great surface level interactions with people, but maybe they don't have any deep relationships because they just don't know how to go about conflict resolution in a productive way. Or maybe they get jealous of other people. Or maybe they don't even know how to pursue deeper relationships because they didn't have a family that was able to model that for them in a healthy way when they were younger. You really never know what the situation is with people until you actually get to know them. The reason I say that's the Instagram before Instagram is that because it's just appearances. You don't know what's going on behind what you see. Social status means nothing. Social status has a couple different definitions, but what I think this commenter is going for is the classic cool popular crowd, and how you don't have to be considered cool or popular within a confined community like college or high school in order to make friends. Because what might be cool and popular to you, somebody else might see no value in. They might see them as low social status because they're mean people, or because they're braggadocious and only flex about their money with no substance underneath. And to that same person, what might actually be social status is somebody that runs a dog shelter, somebody that really loves nature, or somebody that cares about roller coasters and has a special vested interest that has led to them working on building their own theme park someday. Value is going to vary highly among different people. And that's good news because that means you don't have to fit into a specific stereotype in order to make friends. My entire life, I felt like I'm watching over people. I can see everyone living normal lives and behaving normally, but that was something I can never have or had. You know how sometimes you can only admire what others have from afar because it wasn't meant for you? I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm watching a movie I'm not involved in. Yeah, that's a huge perception. Deception. Yeah, that's a huge perception deception. Appearances can be very deceiving. I've known normal people whose parents were dying of cancer. I've known people that look put together on the outside but have crippling self-doubt and insecurities. People can be having pregnancy scares and getting out of rehab, but you might never know that because they don't let other people know about that. That feeling of undeserving that this commenter is talking about here, I believe is a representation of negative self-esteem. They don't feel like they deserve good things, and they might not have the things they want right now in terms of social life. The good news is that how you feel about yourself is actually not objective reality most of the time. So that means if you feel hopeless, that likely means there still is hope out there for you and what your goals are. Final comment I'll read because my recording is already reaching 53 minutes. It is both comforting and sad how this message speaks to so many people. We need a solution to finding community more than ever. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people often have friendships, but doesn't feel like they have friendships. And they're searching for a sense of belonging, which comes from a bunch of different sources coming together. Not just friends, but family, a best friend, a romantic partner, mentors. It takes many different pieces to usually feel like you belong somewhere. A feeling of social wellness, that you're fine, and you're excited about life. But I think one of the most neglected parts of social life is that community, which is comprised of many different social groups in your life. Was there anything valuable that you learned in this video? Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see different. Thanks for watching.